Labas vakaras, sveiki, Nepatogus kino festivalio žiūrovai. Hello and welcome to the Q&A session of the Inconvenient Films Film Festival. We're very happy to be able to introduce the directors of the film you just watched, Vano Arsenishvili and Nino Orjonikidze. Hey guys, I hope I didn't butcher your last names. How are you doing tonight?
Thank you, fine.
So just a little bit of information before we get started with the conversation. You, the viewers at home, are also able to participate in this conversation. And the way to do that is you have to exit the full screen mode of watching the film. And then in the platform, in the top right corner, you should be able to see an option to ask a question. You can send a question directly to us that way. The question will not be seen by anybody but the film, the festival crew. So you can ask whatever you want. Don't worry about grammar mistakes or anything like that. You can also ask a question in Lithuanian if you prefer, and I will be able to translate that question. Another way to do that would also be to use the dialogue option that you should be able to see on your screen as well. But the difference between these two is that you can, in the dialogue option, everybody will be able to see what you ask. So you can use that to comment on how much you love the film, how great it is to see the directors and stuff like that. And also please use the dialogue option to let us know if there are any technical difficulties, if you're having trouble hearing one of us or seeing one of us or stuff like that. So having all of that in mind, I guess it will be obviously the first one to ask you something. And that's something that came into my mind while watching the film a second time, is that it seems like on paper, this sort of story from this location, that it's very connected to the local culture, local people. And it seems a little bit like it maybe shouldn't relate to somebody in, for example, Lithuania. But then when you look at it like from a distance and you think about like this basic conflict happening in this film, this past versus this modern forces kind of colliding, you see that the story is very universal and that you can pretty much see it happening almost wherever. So for you as the directors of the film, for you as people who filmed the story from the beginning, how did you approach it? Did you approach this as a sort of very local, very small story happening in this place at this time? Or did you approach it directly as a sort of a thing that's happening globally all over the place?
Thank you. I think we started as a very local story because when we started, we had no idea that like the Chinese are constructing this railway. So it has nothing to do with this whole globalization process because we started it as a film about, we were just attracted to the landscape and to this small, authentic, environment. This is, and then we discovered, and it slowly started unfolding, and it started like a snowball, and then it has become like a big landslide. But then it's more kind of story for me now, like watching it now, it's more kind of story about uncertainty. None of the villagers know what is going to happen to them next. And in this regard, it's about everybody, any other small country or maybe even big country that is not aware what is going to happen next, and you are just not informed about that, and things developed around you and around your house and around your life, and you are not participating in this decision-making process. So in that sense, I think it can be relevant to any other place in the world.
There is also a sense while watching the film, at least that's what I felt, that there's a kind of shifts going on in the film where it's almost like time is almost standing still. Nothing is really happening. There are these conversations. It's very still and it's very calm. And then all of a sudden it sort of blows up and there's this big emotional drama happening right there, right now. Is that how the story unfolded, or is that more of a structural thing, structuring the story for a film?
I think this is how it unfolds. It actually, the structure of the film actually repeats the real-time events, how they actually happened. So basically, it's structured according to how we perceived things were happening in the real time, in reality, I would say.
Can I ask you how you approached these people, how you made them sort of be okay with being filmed? How big was the crew, and how did they let you in as people, as directors?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe Vano can...
Yeah, so our crew was very small, like me, Nino, and one assistant or audio person in a place. And we shoot through 6 years. And after 1 year, they understood that we are not from television. They gonna be not on news. And they didn't knew when this Chinese construction will end, but they didn't knew also when the film will end as well. And they were making jokes that we are making a series or something like that, because we were coming during the 6 years period. And after 1 year, yeah, they were more open to us, and yeah, we have a very small crew over there, and we are really glad that we met that people who are now so main character Nodar, for example, the station master who was with us 6 years and never say no to when we were there and wanted to shoot him.
Mm. Was there ever any point where you were like being asked to get more involved than making the film? Like, for example, with the worker protests, it seems like they're very, very eager to get heard, you know? And so at any point, did you feel like you maybe should, that there's maybe this expectation from them that you would get very, very much involved in their personal struggle?
Yeah, maybe, but they also understood that we are not from television or from news. We are not making the news, and they were also, yeah, they knew that the film will be finished in not very quickly. So yeah, but yeah, maybe they were eager, but we were just shooting this release, and yeah. It was the part of bigger story.
I think there.
Yeah. No, please go on.
Yeah, I think for us, this distance, which actually I think felt in the film, was somehow important. We were not kind of activist filmmakers there trying to really change the situation, because I don't know, this is not how we work, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, but it's not what we are doing there. We are always on some kind of distance. What we could not manage, unlike Georgian part, what we could not manage to get closer to the Chinese community, because it was almost impossible. Like all 6 years, every time they were seeing the camera, they were trying to somehow stop us filming there. So at some point, after 2 years of trying, we decided to make it more artistic decision, so that they are not really part of the film. But initially, it was not our idea not to have them as a protagonist. It was just a reality that happened this way.
We do have a question from the audience, I think quite related to what you were talking about just now. Is the railway already made, and how did it finally affect the local villagers?
The whole thing is that no, it's still kind of in the same condition as we left, because the thing is that 2 years ago, when landslide started, they actually discovered that it's not possible to go through this village. So people who were for 5 years waiting their houses to be deconstructed and were in bewilderment, waiting what is going to happen next. Now this year they discovered that it's just impossible to go through this area. And now this whole railway is moving to another side of the village. So now the whole story starts all over again, and another part of this kind of river is waiting. So it's kind of circle, it's kind of vicious circle. So no, railway is not ready yet. And the opening, although there are hundreds of openings already of each tunnel, including in the film, the things are not done yet.
Is that how you read the very ending of the film, where we see sort of a tunnel and we go into this darkness and then we don't really come back from that darkness? Is that to reflect the sort of uncertainty of how this very basic conflict within the film, whether and how it will be resolved in the end?
Yeah, at least this is how we felt there. And I suspect some of the characters that live in it. This is exactly why we decided to end in the tunnel, because for now the tunnel doesn't go anywhere. So it's more kind of we are coming to the same place where we started from.
If you shot the film for 6 years, at what point did you understand, and what happened to make you understand that, okay, that we have to, unlike the actual tunnel, we have to finish this project at some point, and that point is now?
I think for me, it's not finished yet. And with Vano, we very often discuss that we cannot detach ourselves still from the same story. We still go there, we still observe, we still follow the situation, because we actually observe that it's just starting all over again and nothing is done. There is no resolution there. So for me, there is no this feeling that it's an end. So I think it was just a problem of the production, because we could not just go on forever, because 6 years of our life was spent kind of depending on that. And then we just realized that it does not take us anywhere. Likewise, this railway. So we just decided to stop, because luckily, co-producers were involved, and then they somehow assured us that it's time to stop. It's the story is there.
Is there a reason why you decided to do the film, both of you? I mean, because this whole sort of two directors, is it more like being completely on the same page between you as a creative team, or is it something that you bring different things to the table?
Yeah, I think Vano can contribute to it. I think we can somehow, I come from the journalism background, and I'm really very much interested in current affairs and all these big things that affect small things. So for me, current affairs are still very important because of my journalistic background. But Vano comes from the feature film, fiction film background, and somehow documentary is the ground where our interests really meet, where kind of current affairs are transformed into a more kind of long-term stories with more artistic approach. So, and also Vano is a camera cinematographer of the film. So personally, I think that in documentary, the way we think cinematographer is also in a way a director, because very often when we follow some action, he makes directorial choices. So this is how we kind of are both directors.
And I, as cameraman, always thinks that you need director by your side when you are shooting the movie, documentary, because it's very important not to somehow be lost. For one person, for my opinion, it's very hard to film 6 years and to come and to have every time same trigger and same interest, because after 1 year you know this place, it's not new anymore as for cameramen. And we were, I think, a good team in a way that we encourage each other to come again and again and to see the new possibilities of this place.
I found that, talking about being, a cinematographer, I found it very interesting in this film how you frame nature, because we're very used to nature being this amazing, beautiful, being framed as being the most gorgeous it can be. And in this film, that there are instances where we do get to see this, but also there are very many instances where we do see nature kind of getting maybe a little bit destroyed. I don't know if that's too strong of a word. Was that your sort of was that your goal starting the film, to sort of have this unique perspective on nature?
In a way, these big construction works were ruining surroundings, and we can't. It was there, and it was also our goal as well because we shoot in this long period of time to show how the nature is changing due to these huge constructions. And if the viewer is seeing it, we fulfill our goals, I think. So as to show the destruction of the nature.
We have quite a few, actually, questions from the audience. Is there still high tension between local workers and the Chinese, or was it finally resolved?
The thing is that due to COVID, when Chinese workers were back during the New Year's holiday back home, they could not come back. So for a while, this whole construction process for months was stopped. But now, since the project itself is kind of suspended because it's not clear which way it will go, because now they are exploring and making this geological expertise all over again, it's kind of suspended. Therefore, on that particular area, construction is not having place. Subsequently, there are no this kind of clashes anymore, but from time to time they appear, and from time to time, it's not easy, the communication, because there is a lot of miscommunication, lot of kind of not understanding, lot of cultural difference between locals and Chinese.
As the story is still evolving, are you and you keep revisiting the place, are there plans to make a follow-up documentary?
Well, yes, we just a few weeks ago we were there to show the film to the local audience, like villagers, and we organized a film screening in the old village school, which actually was one of the locations of our film. And there we realized, that we should somehow come back, because, as I said, we could never leave that place yet. And since the same company, the same Chinese company, is given another huge project in Georgia, in totally different part of Georgia, which actually borders with Russia. And there are almost the same, if not worse, problems arising due to this construction. I thought to have a follow-up, maybe not in this particular area, but in other region of Georgia, which is even worse. And I think with such irresponsible sometimes actions on behalf of the government, our government, because I think it's still the problem of the government, whom you choose and how you choose, and then how you control the whole thing. I think it's important somehow to follow this process and also find the relevant stories in the other part, because I don't think it's just possible to do it like that after the total failure, or at least this is how I see it in this part of Georgia.
Do you think the film has the ability, or was seen by people in charge of these decisions, people, making these calls?
Well, we are showing everywhere, wherever is possible. Due to COVID, now cinemas are closed and it's restricted. But we showed the film on like in Tbilisi at Cinedog Film Festival, and we are showing it online. And we are actually planning this big screening in the region where this new construction is starting, so that inhabitants of the region really understand the consequences and really understand how much they should be somehow involved in decision-making process, because I don't think it should start, the decision should be made without their involvement. And luckily, they are more active in that region, and we are planning film screening quite soon there as well.
A few more questions we're getting. Is the construction project made from private money, or are all people of Sakartvelo keep paying for it?
So officially, as we know, the railway is financing this project. So basically, it's half state, the railway service, and it's also financed by our budget. So basically, we hire Chinese. It's not Chinese money. We hire Chinese company to make this construction.
So it's the state money.
Yeah, and it can be loans as well.
Another question from the audience: what is the sort of the structural significance of the bear attack sequence? The character getting attacked.
I can't put it like what's the significance. The only significance is that it really happened, and our station master, who was the only character, only man who seemed to be very humorous, very lively, like more kind of psychotherapist, and suddenly he himself is attacked by a bear. So it's in up in the woods where he lived. So, and then he survived this attack. For me, it was like when documentary filmmakers choose a character, they always think about if this character can stand such a long time, the camera and the crew, and our camera not only managed to withstand the camera and crew, but all the things that he went through. He actually was really very, very much attacked. When we filmed, it was already 1 month after the attack. So when he was attacked, we did not film him because I never believed he could survive this attack. And then when he finally survived, I realized he's a fantastic character, and he's like Georgia for me, in spite of all the attacks, like he's small and light and, very flexible. And because of his character, he somehow survives survives everything what happens. So he reminds me a little bit, this character, the Georgian, he represents somehow the Georgian character in that sense.
And also in the scene when he's attacked, the guys are speaking about him, and they telling that he survived because he's small, not because he's strong or something, because he was small and they could not really control him. And yeah, I understand. I agree with Nino that maybe it's Georgian character to be not like strong and attack directly, but be like more or less
flexible.
Yeah.
So a metaphor of Georgia getting attacked by a bear, but then surviving. So good and bad things, right?
Yeah, in a way, yeah. But it's not intentional, you know. It's just none of the so-called like this fairy tale or symbolic episodes that are all over the film. For me, they are not really manufactured. It was there, and it really derives from the reality that existed. So the only thing we were doing, we were waiting, observing, and following, and then of course transforming it into some kind of visual images. But otherwise, I don't know. We did not think what does it really mean, but it's there. So the whole, this kind of symbolic elements were present in the reality of this village.
Okay, I think those are all the questions our audience had. Quite a active night for a Lithuanian audience. So thank you very much for joining us, and I encourage the viewers at home to join us in our next watch party screening, which is tonight at 8. We're watching the film Love Mobile. So thank you guys again for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.